Hello, hello, and welcome back to the art room. Mrs. O'Neill, your art teacher here. All right, today we're going to be talking a little bit about architecture, all right, and architects. So, hopefully, if you were watching this on Seesaw, hopefully you just watched the activity that I just did, where I read out loud to you. In Seesaw, I read to you, and that's for copyright reasons that it's only in Seesaw, but I read to you Iggy Peck, Architect, which is an amazing book. I highly recommend it. I love this book. So definitely check out Iggy Peck, Architect. All right, but I went ahead and read that out loud to you in Seesaw, so watch that video. If you feel like you need to respond to that one, you can just give me a thumbs up or write done. This is the activity, though, that you would respond to if you do the project and you want to turn that in to count as one of your 3 projects due by October 15th. That's only for my school where the students, the mascot, if you go to the elementary school where the mascot is the tiger, then October 15th is your due date. If you go to the school where the mascot is the bee, then you technically still have music right now. So you don't have to worry about turning in by October 15th if you're at the school where the mascot is the bee. All right, so let's talk a little bit about architects and architecture. First, our vocabulary, all right, before we get this conversation started. So an architect is a person who designs a building. See, I've drawn my little person. I've got a pencil and paper. All right, so an architect is a person who designs a building. Architecture is the building, okay? So architect is the designer of the building. Architecture is the building. Makes sense, right? Okay, so we read that awesome book about Iggy Peck, who wanted nothing more than to be an architect, and he was always building designs, right? Okay. So we're going to learn a little bit first before we get started in our project. We're going to learn a little bit first about one of my favorite architects in the whole world. All right, her name was Zaha Hadid. All right, this is a picture of her. Zaha Hadid was an amazing architect, and I really liked how she designed buildings because people would look at her building designs, and because they were so like funky shaped, they would be like, "Oh, you can't make that," and she was like, "Watch me do it." All right, so she would make these designs and then like make them happen. So this is one of her buildings that she designed, and I love the shape of this building. Isn't that cool? Oh my goodness, it's so funky, and it's got, I mean, imagine being in here and looking out all these windows, right? Like, that's so cool. So that's one of her buildings. Here's another one. This one's absolutely cool. Did you know that you could design a building that has a giant hole through it? Look at that. She designed it that way. It's so cool. All right, here's another. These are some more of her buildings. This is like a whole bunch of her building designs. Check that out. Isn't that amazing? See, so other architects, because nobody had done it before, people were looking at her designs being like, "Oh, you can't make that happen." And she was like, "Just because nobody's done it before doesn't mean it can't happen. Like, watch me do it." And she did. She also is an architect who is famous for, she made one of the biggest architecture firms. It had 400 employees at a time when normally 25 employees was kind of regular. She had 400 employees at her architecture firm, which is amazing. Like, that's an amazing accomplishment. And that's another thing that people told her she couldn't do, and she was like, "Watch me do it." Architecture, there's something called the Pritzker Architecture Prize, which is a very special award for architects. And she was the first woman to win it. And she was like, "Yes, watch me do it." So she's amazing. One of my favorite architects. So now that you had a little art history, all right, we've had a little fun with a story. We've done our vocab, and we've learned a little bit about a famous architect, all right, from history. Okay, now it's time to talk about our project, okay? So you're like, what is going on? So one of your new Virginia Standards of Learning, which I'm super excited about. Like I said, I love these new standards. All right, one of the new standards says, you notice that we've been working on what is a portrait, what is a landscape, what is a still life. They also have grouped in there, they want you to know what is architecture, which, like we have just discussed, is buildings. And an architect is somebody who designs the building. Yes, even this lovely school that I'm now sitting in, an architect designed it, all right, and it became a reality from that design, okay? So Today we're going to be talking a little bit about architecture, and our project is I'm going to show you how to use your shapes to design a building. But you know my style. You've probably been working with me for a little while now. You know that I'm not a huge fan of walking you step by step through everything. Some projects it's good to do that, but on some projects I really want your imagination to take off. There it goes. All right, to take off and to take flight, and I want you to kind of make it your own. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples of what you could do, but really the goal, as long as you're keeping in mind that the goal of this project is to be making a design for a building, you'll be good to go. Now, let's go ahead and get started. You're going to need a pencil and you need some paper. So make sure you've got a pencil and a paper to start with. All right, let's get to it. You got your pencil, you got your paper, right? Okay, let's get started. So I started by saying, well, who would I even, it's more fun when you're putting together a building design to have like a person that you're designing it for in mind, or a group of people, so maybe you're like, oh, I'm gonna I'm gonna design like a cool house for Granny, or something like that. So for me, I was kind of being silly the other day when I did my project, where I was like, oh, what if I had this little T-Rex? For some reason, I just kind of found him in here, and I was like, this guy's cool, so he just lives in here. And I was like, what if this T-Rex, what if I made him a castle? Because I just feel like if he's going to have his own home, right, if he's going to be a homeowner, he's going to need something fancy, right, because he's a fancy guy. Look at him. So fancy. Okay, so what I did first is I was like, okay, I need a piece of paper, and I need to sketch this out. And I'm going to go ahead and, I'm going to go ahead and do the whole process out again on this whiteboard for you to see, so you can kind of see what's going on with that. Okay, so I was like, you know what? I want him to have a castle. What do you think of when you think of castles? You think of the towers, right? And I was like, all right, what if I need to start with towers. So I need some rectangles. All right, and then I need a roof on that. And whenever I think of castle kind of roofs, I think of like the pointy ones. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna need some pointy roofs for my castle. Triangle. I'm gonna need something that connects these two, because there needs to be like that middle part of the castle that connects the two towers that are on either side, right? So I was like, okay, so I did a long skinny rectangle. All right. And I was like, okay, well, obviously he's going to need some amazing windows because he needs to be able to look out from his fabulous castle. So I was like, okay, design some windows to go in there. I thought, you know what, he definitely needs to be able to get into his castle, right? So he's going to need a front door. And I was like, well, when we're doing castles, I'm thinking drawbridge. You know what I mean? One of those large gates that they can kind of like open and close. So I was like, okay, he's going to need one of those. Obviously, so that's another shape right there. There we go. All right, and I was like, wouldn't it be cool? I was thinking about, wouldn't it be cool if, right, he could just have like a bridge where he could just go from one tower to the other, just like above this. I was like, well, that would be kind of cool. So I was like, what if I added like a little rope bridge there? Kind of like whoop, two lines, little bridge right there. There we go. All right, so it's like, okay, so I've got that. And then I was thinking, what do I want it to be able to do? So I was like, okay, well, I want the roof, right, this part right here, to be able, because he's a little action figure, right, because he's a little action figure, I was like, I kind of want the roofs to be able to, like, open, kind of like a toy almost, so that, like, he could actually, like, play in the building that I'm building, right? So if you notice, these are all just shapes that I've put together. So if you use your shapes, all right, and we'll go ahead and quickly review, I mean, you're second grade, you've got your shapes down already, but quick review, just a reminder so that you're not like later like, oh, wait, I could have used that. Rats, I hate that feeling. So just a reminder of shapes you can use to put them together and build like a structure. That'd be a triangle, square, rectangles are very useful. I use those a lot. All right, circles, okay? Lots of things like that, all right? So good shapes that you could use. You could use diamonds. You could even use hearts in your design. Yes, right? So use your shapes to kind of put together and draw your design first, okay? So go ahead and draw your design out and think about who you're designing it for, and then think about, you know, what kind of things you want in this design, right? You're like, okay, well, what do I want it to be able to do, right? When I actually build, because surprise, after we draw this, you're going to be building a little model. Use whatever you've got at home. That's our motto of the art room this year. Normally I'd be like giving you supplies, and we could kind of like do that in here, but that's okay. Use whatever you've got. So maybe at home, maybe there's some building blocks, or Legos are good for this. If you have popsicle sticks, or even if you just have paper that you roll up. If you roll up paper, I've done this before, it's really fun, where you just kind of roll up a piece of paper. You roll up a piece of paper and you've kind of made a little log right there, and then you can kind of like make more of them and kind of build using that, right? But you're going to build a structure, okay? That's not the part that you have to turn in, to be clear. If you want this project to count, because I know that not everybody's going to be able to say, oh, like, I don't really know if I have any of that stuff at home to build with. All you got to do is take a picture of your design and send that to me, just kind of getting that understanding of what architecture is. We're designing a building, right? But it's okay if you are not able to do this next step, but I would highly encourage you to get creative with it and kind of look around the house and be like, what do we have? Kind of look around and say, what kind of stuff do we have here that I could use? Make sure you ask permission before you use anything, okay? That's a big rule in the art room. Make sure that you're asking whoever, because, you know, the paper might not belong to you. So make sure you ask before you use it. But, you know, you can use things as simple, like I said, as paper to kind of build structures out of. You know, as long as you have some sort of, you know, material and then adhesive, you can build a lot of different things. So I had the home court advantage of being able to be in the art room to do this. So I made my structure using the popsicle sticks. Like I said, I gave myself only a couple of supplies that I was allowed to use to kind of make it a little more fun for me. But I use these kind of, they're like the popsicle sticks that are called puzzle sticks that kind of like fit together. So I was like, okay, I'm going to build my towers first. All right. I built the connecting piece. Okay. And as I was doing my design, I was like, okay, the trickiest part is going to be getting the roofs on and making sure that they can like lift and do what I want them to do, because I want to be able to put my little dinosaur T-Rex guy in his home, in his castle. So I actually, so I folded the paper into a cone. All right, folded the paper into a cone, stapled it, and then took pipe cleaners, and I actually stuck the pipe cleaner through the paper, stuck the pipe cleaner through the block here, and that kind of creates this little house where he can kind of go in there. And all of them do that, so this part can kind of go up if I want to move him over here. This part can kind of flip up if he wants to be in here. And then after I built that, I added a little bit of texture to it, added my windows, and I made this little drawbridge where it's a piece of construction paper that I kind of folded and glued right here, so it kind of opens and closes. Like a little drawbridge. All right, and then I used a pipe cleaner and some yarn to make this kind of suspension bridge up here, just in case my little T-Rex guy wanted to like scurry over the bridge over to this side of his nice little T-Rex castle, right? So this would be an example of building a model after your drawing, which is what real architects do. First, they make their drawing, and then they make a scale model to be able to kind of show their client. So let's say that I was convincing Mr. T-Rex here that I, built, that I had designed him a great little castle. First, I would show him the sketch, and then I would show him the model of the sketch that I had built. And kind of, and this would be like a little teeny model. He'd be like really big, but, he would check this out and kind of give me the okay, or give me any notes on what he likes or what I should adjust about my design. Okay, so use whatever you got at home. You might have blocks, like I said, you might have Legos, you might have rolled paper, cardboard, like I said, paper, just even like look at how I got these shapes just using paper. So there's a lot of different stuff you can do. That's up to you and your design. So whatever you make from there, have fun. Definitely, if you are able to make a design, a 3D model of your design, go ahead and take a picture of it and send it to me as well as the sketch, just because I'd love to see it, honestly. But like I said, you only have to turn in the sketch, but I would love to see any models that you make using that. And don't worry about this. Has happened many times to many artists. Say that you draw out your sketch, and then you're building, and you have to kind of adjust your sketch because you're like, oh, well, when I was building the model, it didn't quite, like, that part didn't quite work out, and you have to adjust a little piece. Maybe you're like, okay, well, that's not something I can do, but I can add this instead, or I can do this instead. Just write that down on your sketch. Like, that's how, we're artists are always making a plan, revising the plan, changing the plan before they get their final draft of the plan, okay? I hope you enjoyed our little lesson on what architecture is and what architects do. That is a job that you could have when you grow up, all right? So I hope you enjoyed today, and I will see you all next week. Remember, if you make the sketch, take a picture of it, you can attach it to this activity here, or you can send it to me on Remind, or you can send it to my email address. All right, bye.